Hello, traveller. It's appeared that you've stumbled across my tent. You look tired. Why don't you stay a while, warm up, have some food, and get ready for your long journey ahead? But before then, why don't you stay a while? I have many interesting stories to tell. Are you comfy? Then let's begin. Our story today starts in a land weirder than our own. It starts in this magical place called the Netherlands. A place unlike any place near it, full of weird giants and amazing and funny looking architecture. A land where everyone's rich and money tight, but they spend that time in casinos. And trust me, they are everywhere. But enough of that. We start with two men, a Brit and a Dutchman. One day, they were together, scouring the country, visiting different countries, visiting different lands. Eventually, it came time for their return to the Great British Isles. Now, this is normally nothing out of the ordinary. For one young man up in the Midlands, this event would change his life, and he wouldn't even know it. This story is about a man named Hazza, and it's a story of the unknown, about new places, about new experiences, and about finding someone very dear to him. One day, Hazza was awoken from his slumber by a knock at the door. A southerner, a South African, and a strangely tall Dutchman stood ominously. A few hours go by, and suddenly all Hazza can see is cars going by while travelling down the motorway. Where to? A magic land called the South. A land of shops, cafes, and funded public services. It was a strange new land for Hazza. Soon he found himself in a room, a medium-sized room, with two beds, one for him and one for the strangely tall man. Without much guidance, he made his way to the new world and started to discover new and interesting things, when suddenly, there it was. A TK Maxx. A world of limited items, but always restocked. Never with the same item twice. Scientists and businessmen, still to this day, debate how something so amazing could possibly function, and how you can find so many good things in such a limited place. In the maze of products was a light that fell on something very special. Something that later turned out to be his son. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We should focus on Hazza. Hazza was in a very strange new world. He was out of his comfort zone. He had a new roommate that he got on suspiciously well with, and everything was new and exciting. But he was also engulfed by fear of the unknown, from being taken from his place of rest. He had a few days to explore and get to know this new land, and while never fully comfortable, he eventually started to grow to like the area, even if it felt unnatural to him. He went to multiple places, he went to multiple shops, he had multiple experiences, but none of it was as good as in this TK Maxx. On that shelf was a blue axolotl with a light beaming down on it. Only two were there, and it stared right at him. Sure, we didn't know how deep the connection was for both of them, but the second they found each other, the store was filled with energy. It had a glow around it. Time stopped. Nothing else mattered other than Hazza and this axolotl. Legend says that the energy was so great and powerful that shop continued to glow for a week, and it actually powered the shop for that entire duration and saved it from bankruptcy due to the increased cost of electricity and gas. Eventually, his son was in his arms, and the world knew peace, even if it was for a moment. His son became a shining light, guiding him through this new world of better living standards. They didn't have time to stay idle for long, for they had plans that night. Hazza was taken to a garden party. From his place in the Midlands, he had heard of such events, but never thought they genuinely existed. That day, he decided that while being taken to this party, he would take his son, and his son was an absolute star. Everyone there loved him. His son was dressed up, his son witnessed all kinds of things, and even got up to his own mischief. His son was centre stage. His son was there for everything. The bonfire, the drinks, various people getting quite drunk, including the tall Dutchman who had never been drunk before. It was such a sight. He was even there when Hazza got mysteriously assaulted by a Pepsi bottle. Now, to this day, we still don't know who is responsible for the Pepsi bottle, but that's not relevant to the story. All that matters is that his son was home, in his arms, As time drew on, Hazza settled into staying in the best part of the country with his son by his side, but his stay was eventually coming to an end. This strange land that he'd been taken to, that he didn't understand, that he'd slowly grew to love, that one coffee shop that I showed him once, and then he insisted that we go daily, all of that was soon to come to an end. Eventually, Hazza had to depart, 2 days earlier than the tall Dutchman and the other guests, due to a little-known English tradition called train strikes. And even though it turned out that there were no train strikes that weekend, Hazza went anyway, as no one had bothered to check if they had been cancelled or not, even though it may or may not have been cancelled 2 months in advance. But that's neither here nor there. Hazza went on his fight. He fought against the perfectly working train service and got home just fine. But on that journey, he was finally left with just him and his son. For the first time since they had met, there wasn't anyone else in his room, there wasn't anyone else in the garden. He finally got a moment alone. On that train, the bond strengthened. The bond was already immediately very strong, and everyone could tell. It's like they were made for each other. The Dutchman also brought an axolotl, but it didn't have the same effect. It wasn't for him. In reality, it was always about this one axolotl, the one that he had picked out, the one that had guided him through this journey, the one that had been with him step by step. And on that train ride, he decided that this axolotl would be his heir. Hazza decided in that moment that the Hazza army, in the event that anything would happen to him, would be run by Hazza Jr., the axolotl. The axolotl smiled. That's all it could do, really. But in that smile, Hazza knew that the axolotl agreed. After his victorious journey against the train, Hazza reached his doorstep, the place he had been days prior, but something was different. He had Hazza Jr. by his side, and Hazza Jr. would never leave his side. On that doorstep, Hazza made a promise to protect Hazza Jr., no matter the cost. Hazza went up to his room and cleared a space on his shelf. Previous treasures were no longer needed, as he had his axolotl. When Hazza arrived back with that axolotl, the Midlands got a little less shit. It's still not somewhere you should ever go to, but you should know, if you're ever passing through, that there is a man with a strong bond that can never be broken. So think about that next time she breaks up with you. What are they up to now? Well, who's to say? They went quiet after that. They went into a life of solitude, staying peacefully within their means, always being there for each other. Of course, new people came into his life, but it was nothing quite like the axolotl. And one thing is for sure. One day, Hazza Jr. will rise the ranks, and he will become the new king of the Hazza army. And when that day happens, nothing will be able to stop them. Nothing. Not me, not the tall Dutchman, not God. The day he found his son on that shelf, a legend was born. A legend that will never be broken. A legend that I am on this trip trying to live up to. A legend that inspires me to go forward with my day, in the hope that one day I can find an instant connection as strong as that one. And if anything shall ever happen to Hazza Jr., the world will stop. The world will mourn. The world will never be the same again. You need to understand this. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Where are they now? Like I said, we don't know. But maybe one day, we'll find out. And that ends my story. A story of bravery, loyalty, true connection, and trying to forget the Midlands exist. I have been Fission. And thank you for hearing my tale. Now as for me, I'm gonna carry on trying to find my purpose. And I'm gonna continue my own journey. I'm gonna work on the contents of this briefcase, even though I'm gonna be lugging this briefcase for months, and I'll be eagerly waiting for whatever update comes of Hazza and his loyal son. Thank you for stopping by. And feel free to stay a while. This place is open to you. This place is open to everyone. You are happy to stay here and feel comfortable for as long as you need until you continue your journey. And what a journey that will be. As for me, I think it's nap time. It was such a shite. It was such a shite. It was such a... Why can't I say that fucking word? It was such a sight. Has a cleared shelf. Cleared shelf? What the fuck? Has a cleared space. Oh god, this is... What am I doing? Right, let's go.